Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Wow. Just wow. I mean, you've done more than most people would in that situation, and she just gets angry. It's maddening when you do your stinking best and get rewarded with a crap storm. Putting away delivery takes top priority, no matter what. A while back, I worked at a fantastic Midwestern gas station in the town that I live in. They were pretty short-staffed when I applied, and I was kind of desperate for a job, so I was really excited when I joined even part-time. I learned the ropes pretty quickly, as there really wasn't too much that differed from previous jobs I've held. My boss, we'll call her Helga because it's such an ugly name, constantly complimented me on how well I was doing so quickly. It made me feel great. So after this, an opportunity for a full-time position became available. Overnights, not ideal, but full-time. I quickly accepted and began that training immediately. I was trained partly by the assistant manager, who we'll call Brad. Brad had been at the store for a few years and showed me a few tips and tricks to make the nightly routine go by much quicker. The routine was pretty much the same every night. General cleaning of store, deep cleaning of food/drink makers, restocking, and making breakfast in the morning hours. The only difference came on the delivery nights, which were twice a week. Now, on the overnights, usually only one person is on. On delivery nights, however, a second worker would come in partway through the shift to specifically help with putting the items away so that other work could still be done in a timely manner. Brad was usually that guy. The first few weeks went smooth as butter. On delivery night, however, Brad was sick and no one could cover for him. Not a problem, I thought. I could just do as much of the delivery as possible while still managing to get my other duties done. I managed to get through a good 85% of it, mostly the cold goods and things that needed to be put in the refrigerator and freezer. The remaining items were placed neatly at the end of the food island and out of the way of any customers. I finished my morning duties and waited for my relief. I felt good about what I'd done and figured Helga would see my effort and feel the same way. No, I was wrong. Immediately upon entering the store, Helga saw the items still sitting on the floor at the end of the island. She didn't initially say anything, so I didn't think much of it. I waited the last few minutes to clock out and went over to the computer to do so. As I'm about to leave, Helga stops me and pulls me aside. She asks me why hadn't the delivery been put away as usual. I explained to her that Brad had not been in the night before to assist me with the delivery and that I still wanted to be able to finish my other nightly duties. So I did what I thought was necessary and then I moved on. I explained to her that if I hadn't stopped when I did, that morning food would not have been prepared and the next shift would be slammed making food, trying to get out basic stuff along with special orders that inevitably came in every morning. She looked at me for a moment before going on a tangent about how delivery is the most important thing to worry about and how I was wrong for doing what I did. I was taken aback because I really thought I'd done right, but apparently not. She concluded with, "Next time, finish putting the delivery away before anything else." Cue malicious compliance. I had to wait about a month or so before I could actually act on this, unfortunately. My boss felt it unnecessary to have a second person helping on deliveries anymore. I couldn't give you the slightest reason as to why, but my time had come. On a nice Thursday night, the delivery arrived approximately 2 hours late. I completed my other duties that could be done prior to delivery. After it was offloaded from the truck, I immediately began working on putting it all away. Backstory to this specific delivery, we had some electrical issues prior, which ruined some product and some back ordering as well, which to those that don't know means that some items weren't able to come on the previous truck due to stock issues in the warehouses. So this delivery was huge, like almost twice as many boxes as a usual delivery. But this is priority, so I focused on it. It was about 20 minutes or so before the shift exchange when I finally got finished putting this stuff away, approximately 6 hours from start. But I got it all put away. I was happy. There was one problem. Breakfast wasn't made and nothing was prepped for the Friday sale we have every Friday for pizza. Usually I would have had 10 or so pizzas prepared for the next shift so they can just whip them into the oven and start on other things. I also usually had the breakfast area full of fresh sandwiches and whatnot, but not today. Shift change happens and Helga walks in with a smile on her face. She notices that this time there are no boxes on the end of the island and seems ecstatic. Until she walks a little further down the line and notices that there's not food in the warmer. She then goes to the kitchen to look in the fridge and notices there are no pizzas prepared. Her face turned a shade of red I've never seen before, and she immediately returned to the front and called me back. I complied and walked to the back with her, fully knowing what was about to come. She exploded at me, asking why there was no food prepared and that today is a busy day and that she wasn't going to stand for this kind of laziness. I let her finish her rant before I answered. Well, the delivery was a bit bigger this time because of all the extra stuff, and honestly, I'm surprised I got it done. But I got it done because that's what you told me to do. I wish Brad would have been here to help. This delivery was huge. I clocked out after a few more minutes of her again telling me I was wrong and all that, yada yada. I really didn't care to continue the conversation, and I knew I'd made my point. I came back a couple hours later to buy some things for home. The poor kitchen staff were still struggling to get enough food out to satiate the morning crowd, but at least the delivery was put away. Never do 85% of a two-person job yourself. Always do 50%. Otherwise, boss thinks you can do the work of two people, which sounds like what happened here. And our second story, the stands. I worked as a bouncer for several years while putting myself through uni. Excellent gig for a student, really, because it's mostly weekends and evenings. Nobody will call you to catch a shift because Carol called in sick again, and so on. The problem, of course, is that on Friday and Saturday nights, as well as events happening in the middle of the week, my job was to stand still outside a pub's door for 6 hours straight, and this went on for years. This led to me developing the stance, which is what allows you to just stand around and loiter for hours on end. If you want to see the stance, just look at anyone who does that kind of stuff for a living and you'll see what I mean. Feet planted about shoulders breadth apart, knees not locked, and often with thumbs hooked in a belt loop or a pocket. Another problem, of course, is that my hair started departing when I was still in my mid-20s, so instead of desperate measures to try and conceal my scalp, I buzz cut on a bi-weekly basis. I also have a beard on my mug, but during summers when it gets too hot to keep a full beard, it usually gets cropped down to a goatee. I quit smoking in 2011, but sometimes when I drink, I give in to the urge for a cig. I've made it a routine to habitually quit smoking again after a night out. No stress. My workmates at the last place I worked liked to go out for payday beers first Friday after getting paid for the month. It tended to be a real good affair. Right from work on Friday, first going for a bite to eat somewhere and then drinks. When I got there, the guys already had a regular haunt, which was a favorite because it would open at 4 in the afternoon, so we would be practically guaranteed to get a table. First time I joined them for this affair, I almost got into trouble. I was hanging around, minding my own business, when a couple of student girls came pitter-pattering up to me, showing me their ID. I just laughed and told them to go on in. I don't even work here. Another gaggle of girls just rounding the corner sees the wee one showing me their IDs before going in, so I barely get a drag of my cig before I have a new bouquet of IDs presented to me. By now, one of the bartenders has seen what's going on and comes rushing out. The F kind of act are you trying to pull here? I try to calmly explain to him that I never asked to see any ID and was just trying to have my cig, but had them shoved up in my face. But as I'm midway through explaining things to him, 3 first years come up to the door and without a word flips out IDs to me. I just shrug, nothing I can do about it, I suppose. The bartender grudgingly accepts and calms down. Throughout early evening, this kept being a problem every time I went out for a cig until the actual bouncer employed by the place showed up at 8. Of course, both being veterans of the same crap, we got to talk rather quickly and ended up trading plenty of war stories. As I said, the guys I worked with had made it our regular place for payday beers before I even arrived. We still kept it that way for as long as I worked there. But the a-holes at the bar couldn't help themselves. Smart butts as they were. About 3 months after the first incident, I'm headed out the door to have a cig when one of the girls at the bar comes after me out the door and with a crap-eating grin on her face presents me with a lanyard with a laminated tag on it that says, "I don't work here," and tells me to come fetch it from the bar when I go on smoke breaks. That's good thinking. Funnily, you standing there probably kept away some people who didn't have ID. And our next story. When relatives expect free vacations. I have a condo at a resort and a popular vacation spot. I run it as a business. The resort rents it out for me as if it's part of their hotel and keeps a percentage. I bought it during the last recession. It was cheap. I'm not rich, with extra homes just lying around, not being used. It's extra income, and I depend on it because I'm an IT contractor, so I'm unemployed for at least a month a year on average. The income is necessary. Importantly, to have it count as a business, not a home, I can't use it for more than a few days a year. This year, I let my sister have all my personal use days as an anniversary gift. In comes another relative, Mandy, who found out from my sister that I let her use the property as a 25th anniversary for free. Mandy called me up today to let me know she's taking her family on a vacation and wants to use my condo. I told her she can book it through Vrbo, and I gave her a discount code, which is my standard family discount. My family discount basically discounts it to the point I make nothing from the rental after fees to the resort. I text her a link to the property and tell her how to book with the coupon. She starts asking if it was available, and I told her I didn't know she'd have to check Vrbo. She asks how much. Again, I didn't know off the top of my head because I don't set the price, the resort does based on demand. She starts to get heated and says I'm not being helpful, and I told her I can't do anything myself. If I wanted to use it myself, I'd have to book it the same way. She calls back and tells me it won't let her book. I hop on Vrbo and check, and it says it's not available for those dates. One of the days is already booked. She asks if I can cancel it. I said no because I don't manage it, and I'd have to pay full price for the person to stay somewhere else in the resort. She's upset, I can tell, but changes the dates. The day that was booked was at the end of her stay. Then she sees the price and calls me back upset that it would be about $2,500 US. I told her that's the best I can do. She asked why it isn't free, and I said it's a resort, and part of that is $15 a day per person per day, and she has 5 people staying for 12 days. That's $900 US. Then there's a $300 cleaning fee, and I have to pay taxes and fees on the rental, which is most of the rest. She gets mad and asks why she can't use it for free like my sister. She said some choice words about me being greedy and try to ruin their vacation. I was done at this point and told her straight up that she has to pay because she's a cousin, not my sister. It's not her 25th anniversary, and I didn't have to give you anything since this is the first time she's called in 3 years, and only to ask for a handout. And our last story. We beat the HOA. Not me, but my parents. After living in our home for about 7 years, my parents decided to get an in-ground pool. I lived in middle-class suburbia where everything was about one-upping your neighbors, so no one in my neighborhood, in which all the lots except ours were incapable of having a pool due to various logistical issues, was pleased, especially our neighbors to the right. Our neighbors, you see, wouldn't even let their kids play on the grass. They were the most pretentious about this kind of thing, and as such had populated the HOA board with them and their friends years prior. Now, not really serving any purpose, the HOA had decided years prior to have a yearly potluck picnic for the community. Every year they'd get more elaborate, too. One year there was a DJ, the next year a DJ in a bounce house, and so on. This plays a role later on. Anyways, we get this pool, and our neighbors to the right hate it. So all of a sudden, the HOA sues us, accusing us of placing the fence for the pool on our neighbor's property. It was about 10 feet from their property, and there was a row of trees between the fence and the property line, which had been there for years with no issue. So I'm still puzzled as to where they felt they were going with the lawsuit. Long story short, we countersued and won big time. Coincidentally, the yearly picnic stopped, and 15 years later still haven't come back. Turns out, between the legal fees and money awarded to us, they still can't afford it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.